and yet came to different conclusions. The NRC panel, their primary argument was that these sounds are not synchronous with the time of the assassination, as the sounds acoustically identified as gunfire, they claim were actually recorded about 60 seconds after the assassination. The FBI report, on the other hand, its approach was that, yes, well, these might be the sounds of gunfire that killed President Kennedy, but mixed among these might be, say, a vehicle backfire or a big firecracker or some other sound mixed in there that that would explain the grassy knoll shot, the supposed grassy knoll shot. So the debunking by the two different groups were actually quite different.
Sure. Okay. I'd like to come back a little later in our talk to some of those questions, because you have detractors in 2006 and it's still controversial. But I think I'd like to first just say that let's assume, in fact, that this is true, that your analysis based on the HSCA's earlier work of the gunfire occurred as it did, and let's just explore what that really means. I'd like to go through the shot sequence, in fact, and also talk about some of the corroborating evidence, things like the jingle analysis.
Right.
Why don't we start there? I mean, the acoustics evidence itself doesn't stand alone, and it seems like it's corroborated by analysis of the Zapruder film. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure, that's exactly right. That it should be emphasized that it's not just the acoustical matching, the fact that they went to Dealey Plaza, fired test shots, and that those test shots were shown to match to the sounds that are on the police tape. It was the fact that they actually matched in order. There was order in the data. And that's important because that serves as a test that we can go back and use filmed evidence to see if that sequence is actually something that is sensible.
Now the order, I'm sorry, by ordering the data, you mean where the open microphone, which was apparently on a police motorcycle, where that was located from one sequence to the next?
Right, exactly. On the recording itself, what you hear, the police recording, is for about 5.5 minutes you can hear the sound of a motorcycle motor. So what had happened is on the police channel, which was used for normal communications, for 5.5 minutes you're essentially jammed by, somewhere in Dallas, a microphone on a motorcycle cop's radio has jammed open. And so you hear the sound of the motorcycle motor. You also hear, on the recording, you hear sirens. And that is the clue that led people to think that this could be the assassination, or this could be a motorcycle that was with the motorcade at the time of the assassination, because the one event that was happening, the one emergency that would require sirens, was the fact that the president's motorcade was on its way to Parkland Hospital immediately after the assassination. Now, as far as the order of the data is concerned, when the acoustical experts did their matching procedure, it would be important to know exactly where the motorcycle was relative to the buildings, because the patterns, the sound patterns that are on the tape are presumed to be echoes off of the buildings in Dealey Plaza. And so the position of the shooter, the position of the microphone are important in determining whether or not you really have a match. Now, since the acoustical experts didn't know where the motorcycle was, but they did know that the motorcade was first on Houston Street and then on Elm Street, what they did was they put out an array of 36 microphones in a row, in a line, on Houston Street and then Elm Street. Now, that gives you essentially 36 different patterns for every test shot that you fire. And since they fired test shots from both the book depository and from the grassy knoll, you wind up with a total of 72 different test patterns. That, of course, will increase the chances or odds of getting a match to the patterns that are on the police recording. Now, if by chance you happen to get a match, and then by chance you happen to get all 5 of the sounds, because 5 of the sounds on the police recording match the test shots fired at Dealey Plaza, they should be in nonsensical order if these are not Dealey Plaza echo patterns. Now, since you have 36 microphone locations, if you got 5 matches, they would be in random order. But if these are the gunshots that killed President Kennedy, then they will have to be in
right, in the order of the direction.
Chronological order as the topological order of the microphones. And that's what happened. The very first sound that on the recording that matched to a test shot matched to the microphone near the intersection of Houston and Elm Street. And then the second one matched at the intersection itself. And then the third one matched the very next microphone in order, which was slightly up Elm Street from Houston. Then the fourth and the fifth matched at two microphone locations about 80 feet further up on Elm Street. So they were ordered in respect to numerical order. The chronological order matched the numerical order. But not just the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chronological order, the actual spacing was the same. Because by that I mean on the tape recording, the 5 sounds, their first 3 are close together, about a second apart. And then there's a 5-second gap, and you have 2 more sounds about a second apart. On the street where you had your microphones, it was 3 microphones in a row near the intersection of Elm and Houston, and then you skipped about 80 feet. You skipped 4 microphones, and then you had 2 microphones next to each other, had the last 2 shots. So the spacing matched the spacing on the topological spacing matched the spacing on the recording.
Well, that seems pretty. I'm sorry, that seems pretty powerful. I'm curious if there's been a counter argument to that, or whether that's.
No, this argument has never been countered. And in fact, it is not just the spacing in the order; it's the trajectory, because the spacing between the first microphone match and the last microphone match was about 130 feet, and its time on the recording between the first shot and the last shot is 8.3 seconds. Now, in order to go 130 feet at 8.3 seconds, you would have a speed of approximately 12 miles per hour. And we know that the Zapruder film shows that the president's limousine was going 11.5 miles per hour on Houston Street. So you have a precise match in the trajectory, which is demonstrated by the order of the matching that is completely non-random. And it's that order of the data that convinced the acoustical experts, and not just the matching, that these were the gunshots that killed President Kennedy.